created with nature. And I think that we already figured that out and need to find it again. And that's the only reason why I say being careful with what we're manifesting. Like what kind of world are we focusing on where we need these specific items to fulfill this specific hole? Can we look at it a little differently and maybe that not, I don't know, help resolve some things?
Oh, absolutely. You're 100% bang on. Like, isn't it like the ancient Egyptian proverb and like the greatest fear was what nightmare, or like to come up with an evil nightmare or something because somewhere, or evil thoughts or nightmarish thoughts because it meant somewhere in existence you were creating that reality, like that you want to keep it positive, project positivity, and not terrorize yourself in the universe.
I mean, there probably is enough like toxic positivity that you do need some sort of equilibrium, but yeah, that's what I mean. The CIA literally has released a document telling us how to do this. We talk about this on the regular, right? We touch on it. So this has sort of been a reoccurring theme with what I talk about. And so I'm sorry if I'm annoying anybody with that, but seriously, like every day, like we put ourselves in a construct. That's what I mean, even with the technology we're talking about. Like again, if this is potentially a simulation, why are we so obsessed with flying to it?
I think it has a lot to do with the entertainment industry and celebrities influencing society, which ties back to what we were talking about earlier with the whole people doing their jobs and stuff like that. I just feel like if the perception of what doing your job meant to you was changed through the usage of celebrities and propaganda and pop culture in general, that people would feel differently about it. I think that the group
that's where I would. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the group that caused what happened in the years we were describing earlier are the same people who control modern celebrities, and they've been pushing towards this over a long period of time. And there's a reason why this whole attitude exists, and it's to prevent a certain type of society from existing. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's up for debate. But
I don't feel like it's a bad thing, and that's what's hard. But I always like want to challenge myself because I'm like, we're the good guys, damn it. But I don't. It's so hard, right?
Intention, right? If your intent is good and you do good things and don't harm, you don't destroy, and you grow and build bridges and bring forward development and discovery, you are the good, and you law of attraction, attract more and get more momentum, which is physics, the inertia going, and that it just keeps on going.
I guess let me try to simplify this a little bit. What I'm trying to say is if there were movies and there were TV shows and there were characters and celebrities presented to the public where they went to the actual movie and the TV show and all these things were people going to work and being happy going to work, that society would just in general be happy going to work. But instead, the celebrities and everything that we have are promoting this idea of seeing yourself as a god or seeing yourself as some sort of person who deserves to be like a celebrity or someone famous or someone who doesn't have to contribute back to society in any way. And that's kind of like the problem. And that's kind of where this whole COVID, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, right. Like
that's kind of where this whole narrative led us
aspect of it, and like the Klaus Schwab, we will all eat bugs, that they want to, transhumanize into like, that matrix human biological battery blob of nothing that is enslaved to them. And that's definitely not what we want to allow, that we're in this battle with ourselves, I guess, like with humanity. But are there other outside higher off world, off dimension, or forces interfering in this battle, and that we have to stay united for being humanitarians and build and ascend this transitional age into the golden age, instead of like adding fuel to a fire. If you're burning and you're burning your civilization down as you go into a whole bunch of gas, plasma and gas, well, it's just going to explode even more, and you're going to have nothing left. And hopefully still living, breathing a couple of people to start back from the ruins of what looks like the mud ages. It shouldn't have been the stone ages. Stone is all that survived, and then it was the mud that you were digging out of after whatever cataclysms were that we blew ourselves up or something happened in the last time around. And that's my key point in all of this, is that we have to transition. We're at this key transitional shift phase where humanity, technology, and destiny can use this current structure system, the machine that we were all enslaved to, and build from it as the base and the infrastructure and technological infrastructure base to that next level of ascension. But if in fact we have to burn it down and destroy it and destroy ourselves just to be free to have our free will and do what we want in the age and against the slavery and that system, well, we're fucked, and obviously we don't want that, and don't want those end times prophecies of Armageddon and Doomsday happening. We want to project our own realities of Eden and heaven on this plane and living forever. And that's why every day I work with trying to make that monoatomic gold and colloidal waters, and maybe I got to eat some more gold, see if I can, live a little longer.
DJ ZPE, society does exactly what it was intended to do: make narcissist sociopaths out of all of us, covert and overt. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Perfectly put. Society has been designed using celebrities to create narcissists who ruin society. But then again, it can be debatable. Like that could be a good thing, because people think
that is
people
not
think
a good thing.
Well, it's a good chaos factor again.
By design. That is part of the trap, the enslavement of the system and of Hollywood. I couldn't agree with you more, Shem. That is 100% like the design, what they've put in place to design the trap of. And I was actually having a discussion of this earlier, like yesterday at some point, I forget with who, but that Hollywood, the purpose of the act is that the people acting are believing of the story that they're portraying. So human to human body language perception, when you see that person acting and believing in what they're acting in, whatever that message is, you're accepting and believing it to be true subconsciously because of the action, where it's like, when you see someone under duress where they're like not believing what they're saying, like, oh, bad acted, you're like, holy fuck, that that's bullshit, and you see it. And that's back to your point of, by design, that they use it to enslave us.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I guess, I don't even know, excuse me, I'm sorry, where exactly the debate starts about what is good and what's bad in that aspect of reality. But at the end of the day, I just think that there's multiple reasons why society is fucked up, and one of them is just, actually, I think the main, at least in the United States, is caused by the influence of celebrities and people basing their entire lives off of emulating the personality from a celebrity.
I do think it would be important at this time to bring up that previous to celebrities, I don't know what face I just saw Bernie make, but that was, did you eat a fly? I feel like that was, I ate a fly face.
That was I heard Andrew Tate, thought of Andrew Tate.
Oh. But I just wanted to bring up generational trauma and mutation and what that has done with childhood abuse and victims. More or less, just that it's been a chain that has continued. That there's been a lot of excuses for. So, like with pedophilia, it's like, oh, Uncle Bob, don't do that again. We won't talk about it. Just don't do it again. But then it happens again, and then maybe the child doesn't feel heard. And so these patterns is what I'm getting at, just repeated. And so this is, if you want to get into the science of it, this has been shown to have been mutated through our DNA. This is, the study that you had him on, and all of a sudden his name is blanking me. Who talked about the generational trauma in general. So I'm just saying though that
Michael Boyd, and was it?
Yes, thank you, Michael Boyd.
Yeah.
It was Michael Boyd, yeah.
Like the epigenetics as well.
Epigenetics, yeah.
Biological aspect of what that.
And that's what he's talking about, because this is just how, and like just knowing my own family's history and some of the people I talk to who have very similar stories to me, and the patterns that we end up finding ourselves in, only to find out like, oh my God, like we have the same story as far as like how our parents came to deal or come upon their own traumas and then expel it onto us. So there is some compounding factors to that, I feel, instead of just being able to point the finger at like one group of people. I know there's a narrative that's been at play, but at some point there was manipulation. And this is where like we hear that we have control, that they've just been like sprinkling this in front of us, this again, a manifestation. So I guess I am saying there is still some kind of group, because there is some still kind of narrative at play that's pushing in directions. But at some point we became players in this and we agreed to it. So and I don't know if you believe in past lives, but the ancestral aspect of it, if we're not reliving this to learn from it. And we've talked about that there's a lot of prophecies right now about remembrance, who we are, but that could mean something else totally too. And I'm just throwing this out there as a monkey in the wrench, so have fun with that.
You'll just bring in reincarnation cycle and no, I do resonate with that though. I can agree more, really. Like it tie it all back to like Shem's point of like these controllers of who are they, why are they manipulating, like the ones that are most hypocritical of trying to preach these great values and then like doing the most horrific crimes against humanity secretly, and that also try to claim moral authority as well as just societal authority over sovereignty over us all, and our own connection to creation and eternal existence.
I think it just ties down to the connection between modern society and ancient societies, because in Platonism, you basically have like the structure of society is there's a controller type class that has special privileges and is above everyone else, and anyone underneath them is just designed to serve them and basically just is not worthy of that knowledge. So that's basically where the idea of initiation comes from.
Per se.
I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
Probably for the best.
But I mean, you see how
IUM maybe. Yeah.
I missed it, but I mean, modern Western society is highly influenced by Greco-Roman culture, to the point that we even have we still have the same statues, like representations on all of our buildings, Capitol buildings. Just look up any Capitol building in the United States and you're going to see some sort of Greco-Roman design on the building for whatever reason.
Right, all the way down to the facades, the like symbolism and the architecture of it.
Yeah, like the entire setup of law.
In the zodiac aspects, a lot of them have that, obviously the constellations in it.
What? But Graham Hancock says the zodiacs in Egypt, and there's no such thing as the zodiac. Okay, I proved it.
No, but we really, I mean, from ancient Greek, like Greco-Roman culture, we get like, I don't know, the Olympics, trial by jury, tragic comedy, democracy, Greek mythology, Hippocratic oath, philosophy, classification, Socratic method, scientific method, architecture, theater, epics. Just some examples that I found on a little list here. But that probably explains why there seems to be a group of people who make these decisions, and maybe there's a discrepancy between the people in power. Some people want us to know about what's going on, which could explain them enlightening us with this perspective of not wanting to work after the whole situation, and then the other side wants us to work and have this kind of like specific set of rules to follow for whatever reason. Could be debated that
Do you
it's
think
because
like
of
on
human nature.
either side, that idle hands thing like doesn't pan out? We're not supposed to have idle hands. And I'm not saying, I also am a big believer on like that we're supposed to have sabbaticals, like, but solo journeys. You know, the natives definitely had that going on. But like well, you know, I guess that's a religious thing, the idle hands. There's some saying with that, you know, causes, I don't know, I'm gonna mess it up anyway, but you know what I'm getting at. And I just, that doesn't make sense as far as like the human race either, for us to just sit back and watch, and even just to sit back and be a painter. And I, no offense to anybody who's chosen that route and doesn't feel that they can do anything other, but look at somebody like BurnEye, who's clearly an artist, but he has multiple other facets that he explores. And that's the other thing, like this is kind of controversy, but are we supposed to be masters? Are we maybe like should do a little more of the jack of all trades? I don't necessarily mean that means master of none, but I don't know.
I think that we would, I think personally, I think we would find more fulfillment in life if we focused on one thing and we had a more structured society. But that's just because that's just my own personal point of view, because I've experienced so much of the opposite of that, to where you have the freedom of choice and it leads to.
So that's like you see people making poor choices with having too much, kind of a thing, or you personally have had that?
Like I used to kind of be more against the Platonic structure of society, but as I've grown, I guess, over time and gotten to know more people, it just seems like it does make sense to have a sort of hierarchy within society where there is a sort of, I guess, ruling class, and then there's people underneath that necessarily can't really handle the responsibility, I guess, of being in that situation. And I think that personally I would not be in the ruling class situation, is what I'm trying to say here. Like, I would prefer, seeing as we are already in this position to where we have to work all the time, we have to do all this bullshit we have to do on a daily basis, I would prefer for it to be more structured, to where like I have a more enjoyable life, as opposed to like where it's at right now, where, you know, we can't even really communicate with people that we care about in our real lives as much as we would like to, just because of how divided everything is because of these topics we are discussing, basically. Like, I would prefer sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, I told you there's a stupid delay, so like it hits at a weird time. Like, I think I'm hitting you right when you're pausing. You know what I mean? But it comes to you a little later, so just keep going. Sorry.
I mean, that's pretty much all I had to say about it. I don't know. I think that there's something to having a structured society, although I'm not 100% on board with it. I think that there's a debate for both ways of living, and I'm not opposed to the other side. It's just from what I've seen.
Actually, some form of discipline. It doesn't mean that your whole life has to be ruled by it. It's the same thing when you say structure. Doesn't mean that it has to be 9 to 5 for the rest of our lives, is how I see it when you're saying that. Because I, as somebody who has ADHD, actually, and I've told you this, like, I like structure. So I'm like, we were talking about like, oh, let's pick a day of the week to be more consistent with, kind of a thing. Or I was saying that because it helps keep me